Welcome back to the Robotmaster tutorial series. In this tutorial we're going to go through transforms, and that is essentially how to move your part around in the work view area. My name is John Huster, I'm with Sophos Robotics. Let's get started. So in this tutorial you can see I've got two plates, or I've got a plate here with its fixture, and I want to nest my plate into my fixture. Ideally, when you import your CAD file from your CAD software, your fixture and your part will already be nested. And what you can do is you can export that as a single step file, import it in, and that will allow you to bypass this step. But if you get to this point and you need to nest your part into your fixture, this is how you would do it. So over on the left, I'm going to go to my plate and I'm going to right click on it. And I'm going to select transform. And when I do that, you can see that it's going to attach a gnomon to my mouse pointer. And now what I want to do is I want to get my gnomon lined up correctly. And then I'll attach my gnomon, which means that from that point forward, anytime I move my gnomon, my part will also move. But in this current state, I'm just moving my gnomon and getting it into the correct state. So what I want to do is I want to come down here and I want to place my gnomon at the center of this hole. And then you have a couple of different ways that you can manipulate this gnomon. You have just a 1D translation. So if I wanted to translate it in the X, you can see I can just click and just translate it in that X direction. That's clicking on the shaft of this arrow. Y, same thing, and Z, same thing. I also have a rotate around. So if I click this arrowhead here, I'm going to be rotating around the Y axis, like so. If I click on this arrowhead here, I'm going to be rotating around the Z. And if I click on this arrowhead here, I'm going to be rotating around my X. That's a 2D align, and then you also have planar moves. So there's a shaded area in between my Z and my X, and if I click on that, I can move this in that ZX plane. And I've got one for my XY, and I've also got one for my YZ. So the way that I'm going to do this one is there is a ball on the shaft of this arrow right here, and that's a 3D align. And so if I click on this ball and I go find the center of this hole, it's going to directly align this X-axis with the center of that hole. And if I want to do the same for Y, I can click on this ball, come up to this corner here and find the center of this circle. And now you can see that my X is lined up with this hole, my Y is lined up with this hole, and my Z is normal. So now that I have my gnomon the way that I want it, I'm going to attach the gnomon, which means after I attach the gnomon, anywhere I move my gnomon, my part is going to follow. And to do that, I'm going to come over here to the right, and you can see this broken chain link. If I click on it, we'll get a closed chain, and now that means whenever I move my gnomon, my part is also going to move. Another quick tip is if you do something that you don't want to, you can right click and it will take you back to where you were previously. So my fixture is flat, so the first thing that I want to do is I want to flatten out this plate to get it on the same plane. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to zero out my RX, and I'm also going to zero out my RY. And now I can see that I'm on the same plane as my fixture, but I actually need to rotate 90 degrees to get these three holes to sit on these three pins. So for RZ, I'm going to type in 90 degrees. Now we're oriented correctly. And what I can do is I can grab the vertex here of this gnomon, and I can snap it to the center of the top of that pin. And click OK. And now I have my part nested perfectly in my fixture. Let's go through one more example that's a little bit more in depth. I want to get this pipe nested into this fixture. So let's go ahead and work through this one as well. I'm going to come up to the top left. I'm going to right click, transform. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place my gnomon at the center of this pipe. And now I want to line my x-axis along this tube here. So I'm going to click on the 3D align, which is this little ball. And I'll come over and I'll find the center of this circle, like so. The next thing I want to do is I just want to do a 2D rotate, and I want to get my Z in line with this upper stack. So because I want my Z vector in line, I know I need to rotate around X, so I'm going to grab this arrowhead here, and if I just come up to the top and I find the center of that opening, I can left click, and now I've got my gnomon aligned the way that I want to, and now I want to place it right at the intersection of these two pipes. And to do that, I'm going to click on the X vector arrow, and I will find the center of that hole, like so. So now I've got it positionally and rotationally where I want it. I'm going to go ahead and attach my gnomon. I'm then going to zero out my RX, RY, and RZ so that I'm on plane. Now you can see it's standing vertically. And the next thing that I'm going to want to do is I'm going to zero it out. And what that means is it's going to zero out all of these fields, and it's going to put this gnomon here right on the vertex of this gnomon here. So I'm going to click this 0 button, and now I want to get it nested in this fixture. So I want to drag it up until I find the center of this arc, and now you can see I'm seated perfectly in that fixture. So that is transforms. That's how we move parts in space. You know, ideally you import a step file of your part already in your fixture, but if you have a CAD file of your part and a CAD file of your fixture, this is how you could marry them together. Hope you enjoyed this. Thanks.